Hi, you're watching Martial Reader. In the previous chapter, Wazzy and Piggy saved the eggs from the magicians, but it still wasn't enough for the Father Hawk to bring them to the Mushroom Kingdom. But he soon collapsed as the poison has spread around his body, but Wazzy helped him recover. As a sign of gratitude, the Father Hawk decides to take them to their destination. Now on to the next part. The Father Hawk is now taking Wazzy and Piggy to the Mushroom Kingdom. Wazzy then tells Piggy to not be afraid, and once they get there, she must listen to what he say, which Piggy agree, while the Hawk warns them that they are getting near the Mushroom Kingdom, so they must prepare for descent. After he says that, they instantly went lower, making Wazzy a bit sick, but once they saw the view, they can't help but admire it. In front of them is a large city known as the Mushroom Kingdom. Suddenly projectiles were cast upon them, but the Hawk dodges it and counters attack. Wazzy asks what's attacking them. He answers that it was his own kind, and standing on the kingdom walls are the few of the best mushroom vanguards, such as a mushroom magician, and it can make a normal mushroom transform into a bomb mushroom. And based on its name, it has the ability to self-destruct, which it happily went over, and mount itself into a cannon mushroom, and it charges itself to sneeze. In order to launch the bomb mushroom towards the enemy, the Hawk easily dodges the attack, but surprisingly the bomb mushroom uses spore explosion to change its trajectory, and once they are close to the Hawk, they pull the trigger to self-destruct, but the Hawk still has few tricks of his own, and uses fire magic wall to block the explosions, so now they are past the outer layer. He explains that he will take them into the inner area, and after that they are on their own, but clearly they were too dizzy to even reply. As the Hawk was nearing his destination, he suddenly felt a presence. A powerful aura filled the lands, as it warns him to fuck around and find out. So he halts his advances, and explained to the mushroom that this is as far as he can take them, since if he goes any deeper, he won't be able to make it out, while assuming that terrifying amount of magic is from the Mushroom King. So as soon as Wazzy opens his eyes to look where the Hawk is dropping them, the Hawk lets go, and now they are falling several feet from the ground. But the Hawk isn't as cruel as the system, as they landed on a rainbow. To their surprise, they can slide on it, making their descent more comfortable than they assumed. While this made Piggy happy, Wazzy was internally traumatized by the experience, but as soon as he thought they are safe, several boulder mushrooms looms over them, and this terrified Wazzy by their ugly stare. But the boulder has no reaction to Wazzy. But as soon as they look at Piggy, it was a different story, as they were all enraged to see another species inside the kingdom. Wazzy realized what was happening, but Piggy was a brave one as she faced the enemies head-on and shouts at them back, which Wazzy smacked her to come to her senses, and drags her to run, but the boulder decides to pursue them. While they're not fast, but their numbers right now is too much for them to escape. After attempting several times, they were cornered. With no choice, Wazzy takes a risk, and uses spore explosion, blocking the boulder mushroom's view, while he used every arsenal he got, and do it everything swiftly. And once the spore dissipates, he smirks as he proudly state that the boulder mushroom misunderstood them, but the mushroom was still agitated by the intruder. But Wazzy asks them to calm down, since they are one big mushroom family, and behold a new species of mushroom, the Piggy mushroom. While Piggy was clearly humiliated beyond comprehension, as silence filled the scene and was even deafening. At the same time, a mushroom fell from Piggy, which the boulder clearly saw, but Wazzy easily explained that Piggy is shedding right now, so it is normal. Then, they leave the place, while the boulder couldn't comprehend what they experience. Now Wazzy and Piggy can breathe easily, as they got out of there unhurt, while he thanks that those things were so dumb, but appreciate that this disguise is actually pretty good, and a normal mushroom shouldn't be able to see through it. But unexpectedly, a not-so-normal mushroom was standing near them, as it states that Wazzy is quite an interesting young fella. As they were cautious about his presence, he continues that Wazzy must be a monster being controlled by a human, so Wazzy use appraisal to see its information, and it turns out that it is a Shitakanobi, and both his level and information is unidentified since Wazzy's level is too low. While this shocked Wazzy as it can even speak, and he knows that he can't fool him with ordinary tricks. But the Shitakanobi felt appraisal has been used onto him, and that is a skill only humans have. Therefore he concludes that he wasn't wrong about Wazzy being a pet controlled by a human, but Wazzy tries to convince him, but Shitakanobi caps was thrown at him. As he closes his eyes, Shitakanobi was suddenly behind them, as they couldn't even see his blade while he sheathed back his katana, while he coldly stated that there is nothing to talk about. As the guardian of this territory, the chance that any potential threat gets past him is zero, since he is named Kage, one of the 4 great mushroom generals. As Wazi turns around to explain, he soon realized it was too late for him, as he was cut in half and died on the spot. Piggy couldn't believe what happened, and as soon as she realized what happened, she only felt fury and throws herself at Kage, but he was serious about eliminating all outsider, as he swiftly cancels Piggy's attack, and once she was stunned, he was about to slice her in half, but fortunately the Mushroom King horns was used, and this was sign for him to go to the king's aid. But it wasn't just him. All of the mushroom went over to the king, and somehow this also glues back Wazi in his original form and was revived. He was surprised since he obviously died just now, and didn't have any revival coins left. But before he could find answers, he searched for Piggy, and saw her unconscious body. He tries to check if Piggy is still alive, but she was unresponsive. Therefore he cries as he lets out spores since he couldn't control his emotions, and blames himself for her passing. But as soon as Piggy inhales his magic shroom, she suddenly was energetic and was clearly unharmed. As they saw that each other was fine, they were thankful and started to bond, as they can now breath in relief that they survive. But the sounds of the horns of the Mushroom King still persist. Thus Wazi was hypnotized, but Piggy tries to pull him away. It woke him up at first, but the horns was too strong, so now he was hypnotized again, and run as fast as he could to the Mushroom King's aid. In a change of scene, thousands of mushroom are charging at the adventurers, and was an all-out war. Amidst the conflict, a tank blocked the enemies from the rear. The swordsman slices through the upcoming mushroom, while the archer killed the one who sneak attacks. But still this wasn't enough, as mushroom trooper were heading towards them in numbers, but they all froze in the spot. As they see rank Ice Mage appeared to aid them, suddenly Mecha Shroom also appeared for a surprise attack. He tries to block it, but his ice wall was useless as the drill went through and pierced his body. This enrages the level 49 Fire Mage, so he eliminates the Mecha Shroom in front of him and decides to take him back to the city. The archer reminds him that he will be punished if he run from the battlefield, but to him his companions are worth more than himself, so he doesn't care about the punishments, and he joined the guild because of the respect he has for the fire and poison mages that founded it. But from the looks of it, they see them as nothing more than some cannon fodder, since they have watching this entire time without taking any actions. But the tank blocked the upcoming attack and reminds them to focus in the battlefield. While he knocks back the Mecha Mushroom, the swordsman follows up and kill it. After that, Waga tries to convince them to retreat, but the swordman disagrees, because he believes this is how their guild tests and chooses its members, and they have been fighting for so long. Giving up now is something only a fool would do, and if they want to rise to the top, they must take the risks, and subjugating the Mushroom King is the best chance for them to show off. While the tank agrees and back up on the swordman remarks, the swordman adds that he might still be unimportant right now, but one day he will rise to the top of the guild and become a sword saint, inspiring everyone who hears it. But unfortunately for them, the Mushroom King used his horns to revive the fallen mushroom. Now he panics. The tank advises them to regroup, but he was knocked out with one punch by a muscle mushroom. Therefore Waga had enough, and plans to burn all of them into the ground, as he cast Greater Fireball. But a mage mushroom transforms a mushroom to block it, while the cannon mushroom fires at will, killing Waga on the spot. As the chaos happened from below, the flying boat of the Firebane Guild is just hovering from the sky, and on the flying boats are the higher rank adventurers. Seth Yubel, a sword general, asks Lilith if she's done with her preparations, which she is not, and is trying to control a monster from a faraway distance while also avoiding detection and the Mushroom King's control. While the Jonin named Naya kindly asks Lilith to be a little faster since he couldn't let their comrades fight on their own, and asks Marianne, an S-rank high priest, if she can bear to just watch their guild members die, but she was unresponsive, while Borea, an A-rank master gunslinger, disagrees and replies that the value of their third-rate members are useless, and their guild only believes in result, and he adds that without the order of the vice leader, all they need to do is stay here and watch, while the vice leader just look at them and couldn't care less. Meanwhile, the needle mushroom gives support by plucking his needles to give it to a normal mushroom, transforming it into a mushroom trooper. But his needles were all gone before he knows it, which wasn't a problem to him since he can make it grow forcefully. Now the mushrooms are ready and were all well equipped for battle. Meanwhile, the king was approached by an assassin mushroom and aimed directly at the Mushroom King's horn. Now the adventurers has succeeded in destroying the secret treasure of the Mushroom King, so the vice leader ordered them to descend and fight now, which they gladly accept. At the same time, the Mushroom King was angry at what happened, while the assassin stabs the Mushroom Trooper and making it its pawn, as they attack the Mushroom King all together, but they were easily eliminated by a bullets piercing their body, and this was done by Bayu, a great mushroom general. But the assassination wasn't done, as another monster was controlled and sneaks attack, but failed as it was turned into pieces. Now two mushroom general appear, while the king was furious in seeing his mushroom was controlled by humans. After he absorbs the enemy, the king shouts and orders them to charge full force, so they did. Meanwhile, Piggy still wasn't letting go of Wazzy, slowing his advances, but he soon regained his will, since the king's horn was destroyed. While he was confused, Piggy was clearly annoyed, but their attentions were brought to the battlefield, as they see the chaos happening in front of them, while this amazed Wazzy as he sees a variety of mushroom fighting in the war, so he roots for the mushroom to defeat the humans. At the same time, the swordsman was now traumatized, and lost all his will to fight, but suddenly the higher rank adventurers enters the battlefield, as the swordsman could only feel small and look at their backs. Then Seth asks Miss Marianne to send everyone out of the way, so they can fight without fear of causing friendly fire, while Naya was kind-hearted as he says a word of encouragement and acknowledged their hard work before they were sent back. Therefore Miss Marianne cast mass teleportation for everyone to go back, and even the corpses wasn't left behind. Now that they are the only adventurers present, the mushroom outnumbers them greatly, but Seth just decided to not waste time and clear out the rest of the enemy, and with a full swing, he uses Hero Blade to eliminate most of the mushroom on sight. Then Naya casted Shadow Clone to multiply his attack using Rain of Iron skill. While this was blocked by the mushroom magicians, they were eliminated precisely by Borea. The cannon mushroom sees him, so it simultaneously attacks him, but for Borea they are all too slow, as he still have the time to boast before using Sunset Sleet, canceling their attack while also killing the mushroom cannons. Meanwhile, the other mushroom aims for the innocent and most fragile-looking adventurer, but she has a secret weapon to defend against them. As she opens her pouch, a furry's hand appeared, eliminating the monster that is in front of her. While Wazzy sees the onslaught that happened, he noticed that it is just like high-level players clearing waves of low-level mobs. After that, Seth orders them to get ready and aim for the king next, so they fire their attack simultaneously to merge for a more powerful attack. But the king wasn't fazed by it. As it gets closer, something comes out from the ground, and it tanks the attack head-on, as it grinned with a cool shades, since the attack he took has only damaged it by 1, as it was a level 92 diamond mushroom, and now all the general are present. Therefore they entered the battlefield, while the adventurer were thinking how to deal with the diamond mushroom in front of them. But before they could decide a way to subjugate it, the diamond mushroom lowers his shades, as it decided to give the adventurers a face they couldn't forget, so it activates its own light skin stare. But Seth doesn't want any of that, as he activates his vanguard, while Marianne supports him with goddess favor, making the attack redirect all over the place, as Borea was amazed seeing how it can turn dirt into diamond, and wants to make a profit with it. But the diamond mushroom wasn't done and was slowly sipping through the barrier. But fortunately the attack stops, and it decides to go back and looking cool with its shades, and absorb the sunlight, while Seth can finally breathe in relief, as he thinks that even with Miss Marianne's support, he almost couldn't hold off that attack with Vanguard, and it was too close. He almost got everyone killed. Then Lilith points out his damaged hands, but he already tried using different types of recovery potions, but none of them work. So Marianne came over to him, while she activates her angelic powers, and used Angel's Kiss to deactivate the debuff. While Naya was astonished, seeing that she completely healed such a serious debuff. No wonder she is considered as an S rank. After that they praised Marianne and was getting ready to fight again. A bullet has suddenly appeared in thin air, but Seth managed to block it before someone got hit. Now they were alerted and was looking for their opponents, but again another bullet was headed towards them, which Borea counters. Then Naya realized something, so he activates magic detection. Now he sees that the mushroom are using stealth magic and are in front of them. Then a cross slash was used, which they dodge, but now they are separated, so Seth orders them to take each one, while the mushroom also spread and block their path of advance. since they can't let them get to their king. Then Naya looks around to find his opponent, but Kage calls out to his attention and launch a barrage of attack which Naya could barely defend. But Marion is supporting him and heals all his wounds, so Kage went straight to Marion, but he couldn't ignore the attacks of Naya, so he blocked it first. Now Naya is in the offense. While they battle intensely, Boria is targeting Kage from afar, but before he could pull the trigger, Bayu was right behind him and blows his head off. But he was just a sniper decoy, and the real attack comes from behind, which Bayu blocks it with ease. Boria acknowledged her reaction speed, but Bayu couldn't care about his remarks, so she launches for a counter. Both fighters engage in attacking and dodging maneuvers in order to defend themselves. Then Boria mocks her to make her lose focus, but Bayu launch another attack, which Boria claims that he can see the trajectory of all her bullets, but unexpectedly the bullets change trajectory as he barely dodges it. This in turn irritates him and loses his composure, while Bayu follows up her attacks, but he still has a few tricks to show her, as he re-equips a new gun and materialize a heavy machine gun to spray at Bayu. Meanwhile, Seth asks Marianne for a buff, so she complies, as he gained several buffs before he faced the diamond mushroom. At the same time, Garrett is aiming for Miss Marianne, but it was cancelled since he dodged an attack coming from the furry, as Lilith proudly state that she can smell the nasty stench of a dirty old mushroom, so his little tricks can't help him hide from her. Therefore Garrett laughs as he reveals himself, while he realized that it seems like the ace of their team is that furry hiding in her pouch. So with a tap of his staff, he summons a Shroom o' War to launch an attack, which Lilith lets out the furry she's with, to block the attack by eating it. Then Garrett advises her to not feed her pet everything she just wants, since it just ate a deadly toxin, so he wonders how she will fight without that savage animal assisting her. But to his surprise, the furry counter-attack, but he takes out a Ling Ji shield on time to block it. But even that wasn't enough, and break into pieces as the attack went through and knocks Garrett flying in the air, as Lilith mock him for even attempting to poison her pet, since it was raised on her guild leader's poison, so his poison couldn't even compare. Meanwhile Seth is going through changes as he receives all the buff and transform into a gym rat, while Garrett coincidentally was knocked to the diamond mushroom, and now Seth has a perfect opportunity to kill them both. So he swings his sword in full swing to use it as a projectile. Nearing his demise, the sword was easily blocked by the king, while Garrett apologized for troubling the king to defend him. Then Seth called for his sword to get ready to fight the king, as he mocked the king for being nothing more than a slightly bigger mushroom. Meanwhile Naya has fought Kage for 93 rounds, and yet he still keep losing, but it is a good thing that Marianne is healing him. If he can drag this out long enough, Kage will eventually run out of mana. But Kage has other plans as he charges at Marianne again, so Naya tries to stop him, but he was mistaken as Kage launches his attacks on him, while Marianne tries her best to stop the cut, but Kage was too strong, as it passed through his stone skin, and even damaging Marianne in return. Now that Naya is dead, Kage states his favorite line, and that the survival rate of any human who attack the Mushroom Kingdom is 0. Meanwhile Boria is still gunning down Bayu, but she uses her hair as an ammunition to make a fungal net in order to block Boria's attack. But Boria still has more ammunitions to offer, but to his surprise he just aimed for a decoy, so he re-equips his weapon and block another attack from Bayu, while she imitates what he said before, to try and mock him. Then he asks her how did she do that, which she answers while lighting her smoke, and as a professional gunner, relying solely on powerful bullets and rate of fire is not enough, and advises him to pay more attention to other aspects. While she talks he reminds her that they are still fighting and was about to pull the trigger, which she advises him again to pay more attention, and look again, since he is the one who's in trouble. So he did, and look at the mushroom sprouting, which he was disappointed about it, but he was mistaken as it flashes a blinding light to him, blinding him temporarily. But Bayu still was talking, so Boria used his hearing sense to locate her, but unfortunately for him, Bayu anticipated that, as another mushroom sprouts, and release blasts of deafening sound to disable his hearing. Now with two of his senses disabled, Boria decides to retreat, but he steps on a mushroom that instantly grows, which made him bounce all the way back. But now he regained some of his eyesight, as he plans to kill Bayu after recovering, while he was furious how he got toyed with by these low-level trash monsters, and plans to burn the place to the ground. But this also powered the shroom in front of him, As he fuels it with malicious intent, it explodes, throwing him like a rag doll, and was thrown back to Bayu. So he tries to pretend to be unconscious. As Bayu got closer, he take out his gun but was unable to pull the trigger, as he was covered in slime, preventing him from even moving. Now unable to move, he could only curse at the pathetic mushroom that is all over the place. But Bayu went over to him and teach him a lesson that there are over 40,000 different types of mushrooms here, and not a single one can be underestimated. But there's only one type of human, bad ones, and asks him who is the trash now, as she pulls the trigger, giving him a deserved death to the face. As the battle happens, Wazi was amazed in seeing how strong the mushroom were, so he wonders if he evolves, can he be as strong as them? But even they're strong, they're still subordinates of the Mushroom King. Then just how strong is the king? But suddenly he saw a figure in the distance. At the same time, Seth comes over to the king, but he sees that he's small compared to it. Therefore he uses his secret technique, and as inhales, his heart was filled with energy, and his muscle exponentially grows. So he ignites the war general's battle spirit inside him. Now he transforms into a giant that equal to king's height. Then he asks why the king didn't attack him while he was transforming, and did he learn chivalry from them humans? But he adds that he will not go easy on him for that, which the king was annoyed. Then they start their battle as they clash their sword. Seth attacks the king with his might while the king just redirects it. So he attempts to attack again, but the king blocks it with ease and redirects his attacks again. So he launches numerous attacks while mocking the king, and in turn his blade even reached where Wazi is located, which he dodges it in the nick of time. Now he realized that even spectating is dangerous, but suddenly he felt something. As he was wondering what just happened, the system is notifying him of an emergency mission being triggered. While Seth is still battling the king and mocking him, Garrett is fighting the furry that is with Lilith as he realizes how strong it is, and he cannot let this monster get closer to the king. While he struggled to block its every attack, and even his counter was easily nullified, as Lilith informs him that the furry is immune to magic. Now Garrett realizes he is completely suppressed. Then Lilith noticed Seth is having hard time dealing with the king, so she asks the furry to come out, but it requires her one dragon bone, which she was hesitant to give, and annoyed that her furry has been eyeing the things inside her pouch, while Seth halts his actions, and is thinking that to his knowledge the Mushroom King is only at level 60 at most, and with Miss Marianne's buff, and his own abilities, his abilities have increased 7-folds, so he wonders how the king is still keeping up with him. While in deep thought the king mocks him. Now this made Seth furious on how dare a monster belittle him, since he is just an overgrown mushroom. Therefore he ignites the battle spirit to 100%, and leaps in the air to attack the king with all his might, which the king twirls his rapier before deflecting Seth's attack. While Seth was confident to beat the king's sword, but he was mistaken as he was thrown to the side, and was now suppressed, as he couldn't believe the outcome, since the king is only at level 60. Then the king follows up his attack, while he was fast enough to block. The king's attack was too much for him to handle, as this pierced through his sword, losing his arm and a chunk of his body. This made him return to his normal size. As the king went over to him, he asks it to kill him and be done with it, but he just stands there. Now Seth realized that it never put him in its eyes to begin with, and was toying with him all along, as he bleeds to death. Now that Seth lost, Lilith gave the permission to the furry to eat the dragon bone. Therefore it decides to come out. Fearing the furry, Garrett decides that he must stop it, so he charges his ultimate attack and direct it to Lilith, but the werewolf still managed to block it. As it carries his master to safety, Garrett didn't hesitate to attack it, but he was easily knocked out. As he states that he will deal with the battle, he disappeared and was now behind the king, which the king tries to block, but this time he was crushed to the ground, even shocking Wazi and Piggy. As they anticipate what will happen next, Gray begins to attack with barrage of strikes. Suddenly the two of the generals sneaks attack on him, but he block it. While he look over to them, Bayu asks if he was the one who killed Locke, one of the great mushroom generals, which Gray replies that he has killed too many weakling before, so he wouldn't even remember the names he killed. As they attack, he was so fast he vanished, and the two generals couldn't even see where he went. Bayu was suddenly on the ground, and now Gray is behind Kage. But before he could hit him, he used cross slash to attack him. He receives the attack, and as he acknowledged Kage's ability since he actually was able to scratch him, then Garrett teleports to the scene and activate magic detection. With sense sharing, in order for them to detect all Grey-Gray's movement within 50 meters. They were shocked as they still couldn't see him, while Grey-Gray is attacking them from all directions without them detecting him, as he uses his monstrous power and speed. While they struggle to even defend, Wazi wonders how strong is the wolf, but the system blocks his view as it notifies him about the emergency mission. Then it showed him the rewards as it only requires him to vanquish the demon god Golem's follower since the system has detected it, which surprises Wazi, but he declined it since the current him couldn't do anything about it, and orders the system to stop blocking his view, because he has a show to watch. Meanwhile, the generals realized how Grey-Gray did it, and how he is not even serious, and realized the difference in their strengths, as he swiftly went over to them and knocked them both. As it turns out, he was a former werewolf king named Lycan, and is a level 92 monster. And now the two generals were thrown where the strange figure was, but they didn't react to its presence. Now Wazi is wondering if they couldn't see the black shadow, and if it is a human or perhaps some kind of monster that is living nearby. So he assumes that it must be the Golem's follower that the system was talking about, so he decides to appraise it, but he just receives an error instead. As he wonders how could that be, the shadow looks over to him, as this startled him, but the shadow instantly appeared in front of him. In front of danger, he thinks of a solution. As he look over for answers, he saw that Piggy isn't reacting at all, so he conclude that he is the only one that sees it, while the shadow transforms its part into a scythe and points at him. As it gets closer, he was thinking of ways how to get out of this situation alive. Therefore the best solution is to play dumb as a normal mushroom, as he lies down and rolled to retreat, while Piggy thinks that he is playing with her, so she went over to him. Now he plans for Piggy to play along with him, so he explains that if he keeps rolling away by himself it'll be way suspicious, so he asks her to push him into the forest, away from the cliff, which Piggy claims that she understood, so she rolls Wazi with determination back to the cliff, as he still pretend to be a stupid mushroom, while cursing at Piggy internally, but to his surprise the shadow buys his act, as it turns around and floats away, while it takes out a demonic-looking bell and ring it. Coincidentally, the Mushroom King has woken up, while the generals were getting beat up, and although it seems like he is walking over slowly, Kage's intuition is telling him that he is continuously attacking with a barrage of fists that his eyes can't keep up with, while Bayu uses her hair again to try and slow down the wolf, but it was meaningless as he rips it with ease. But she follows up with the flashes, but he wasn't affected by it, as he points at his eyes and informs them that he has long since been blinded. As the wolf approaches near, their death comes with it, as he launches another attack to finish it once and for all, but his attacks were received by the king head-on, but he greatly sustained injuries, as he regained his consciousness again, but somehow his flesh begins to rip. The wolf follows up his attack, which the two generals tries to convince their majesty to not do this, but he talks to them. Only the generals could understand, while Kage was hesitant to leave. He was barely holding on as the king orders them for the last time, which Kage was loyal but also stubborn as he orders Bayu for them to protect the king, but Bayu knocks him out, as she only accepts the king's commands, while the sage appeared and explained that their king transformation is due to the demon god Golem, and anyone that accepts the demon god's power into their body will undergo demonification and gain a demon king form, but at the same time, they will lose all rationality and become a mere pawn for demon god Golem. To protect them, their majesty has accepted that power, as he was forced into a corner, and undergoes demonification. While the wolf smelled a familiar scent, and while he felt the same mysterious, magical power as back when Fenrir took the position of king from him, and if his senses are correct, then he must finish this before he can completely transform. Meanwhile, the sage asks Bayu to take care of the king's heritage, since the future of mushrooms will be up to her and Kage, which she was shocked to hear, as the sage sends the two of them away from here, while he casts tunneling fungi for them to escape. He adds that he had served 3 generations of Mushroom Kings, so he will accompany his majesty to the end. While Wolf used his powerful attack onto the king, he was surprised the mysterious magical power and oppressive feeling is actually getting stronger. Amidst the fog, the Mushroom King revealed his new form, as the demonification was complete, and is now a fallen Mushroom King. Then his tentacles stretched out to the sage, as he willingly accepts his faith. To him it is an honor to become his majesty's strength once more. After the sage was consumed, the king gained more intelligence and limbs as he can now walk closer to the wolf. He tries to kick it, as he was right, But this thing is much slower than Fenrir, so he believes he can simply tear the king to pieces with his speed, as he attacks the king in every directions, and decides to end it by attacking from behind. But his plans didn't go as planned, as the fallen king suddenly turns around and used Demon King's spore. He manages to get away, while he proudly claims that his fur has both magic and poison resistance. As long as he closes his eyes and nose, his spores will do nothing to him. But he soon felt weak, as he noticed that his hands is now infected with decaying shrooms, as he realized that he was wounded by Kage earlier. So he bites his hands off, but the decay spread to his arms already, so he rips his entire arm. But he soon realized that it has spread all over his body already, so he called his master to help him, which Lilith comes to his aid and puts him in the pet inventory. Since within a beast master's pet inventory, they can use their MP to heal their pets. But her inventory started to act all crazy, and her mana points are dropping exponentially. Soon the pet inventory explodes, and it was too late for Grey to recover, while Lilith loses consciousness because of the trauma. So Marianne take her body to a safe place. As they are going back to the ship, the Fallen King launches his tentacles to take them, but its tentacles were incinerated by the Vice Leader, as he orders Marianne to go back to the ship, and he will take it from here, which Marianne was about to offer her help. He firmly states to listen to him, which she understood. Now the Vice Leader is facing the Fallen King, and was looking at it from below. The Fallen King inhales to cast multiple demon spores at him, but it was useless since it incinerates when coming close to the Vice Leader. Now the Fallen King finds another way to attack him, so he grabs the diamond mushroom and uses it as a projectile, which made Wazi surprised, and he accidentally spoke, until he remembers that the shadow figure is still with them. So he tries his best to act stupid again. Meanwhile, the Vice Leader summons a fire spirit and throws her to deal with the diamond mushroom. So she burns the mushroom, and the Vice Leader follows with incinerate, burning it until its eyes were the only thing left, as he obtained a triple S rarity crafting ingredients, while the fire spirit wasn't fond of his actions, as he unsummons her. But the Fallen King is now behind him, as it opens its other mouth to consume him. After that, it slowly approaches the black shadow, but his belly started bloating, as he felt that something was wrong, so it tries to contain it, but he couldn't handle it, as it bursts from the inside. Since the Vice Leader has activated Rebirth of the Phoenix and obtained the crown of the king, while he couldn't believe how embarrassing it is that a level 60 monster actually forced him to use one of his trump cards, and it is a good thing no one saw that. And before he leaves, he casted Armageddon to get rid of the evidence. While the Dark Shadow Saya's his creation was destroyed, so he leaves the place, so Wazi doesn't have to act anymore, and wakes up Piggy and tells her to run. So they did, but Wazi lost hope as he sees several fireball towards them, but Piggy picks him up and digs a hole to hide from the catastrophe. After a while, the Mushroom Kingdom is now in ruin and was still burning, and Piggy and Mushroom came out from the hole that they dug, and was perfectly cooked, but the system gave them the rewards in completing their quest. So they leveled up and all their injuries healed, but this does not save them from the fact that the Mushroom Kingdom is now gone. While Piggy was hungry, Wazi is in deep thought and thinking about the events that he witnessed, and it is not the Mushroom King was too weak, but that the human braves were too strong. Then a sudden realization comes into mind, and that if he became the Mushroom King, wouldn't he still be like a weakling in front of the stronger humans? Then the system shows him a medium difficulty mission, and it requires him to find a method to evolve in the Mushroom Kingdom and evolve into the next stage. But he simply states that he doesn't want to do missions anymore, which the system tries to convince him that finishing missions and evolving is his fastest path to growing stronger. So he stands up and adds that he doesn't want to evolve anymore, and have decided to be a mushroom brave, as he shouts with determination. At the same time, the tunneling fungi emerged from the ground, and the two generals came out from it. While Kage is still mourning about the king's death, as he decides to go back, Bayu smacks some sense into him, and reminds him that this is their king's wish, and asks him if he wants his majesty's sacrifice in vain, while he still grieves. And without their king, what is there to live for? Which Bayu sits down and calls him an idiot, and tells him if he wants to die, he could do that after they have completed their mission, since they must fulfill their king's final order, as she showed the king heritage to him. This made him regain his composure, and now he was convinced that their mission is far from over.